My dad married a woman with 3 kids. She demanded I be her free babysitter and make lunches for everyone. But I told her I don't want to be part of this family, and now I live like a tenant in my own home. I'm 16 years old. I work part-time at a local coffee shop, and honestly, I need to get this out because I feel like I'm going to explode if I don't. Like 2 years ago, my life was completely different. I mean, not perfect, but at least I knew what my place in the world was. Now I live in this house that's technically my home but feels like I'm in enemy territory. And it all started when my dad decided he needed to replace my mom with a woman who basically wants to turn me into a free babysitter for her 3 kids. Let me rewind a bit because this has context. When I was 12, my mom got sick, cancer, and things got bad fast. That kind of bad where one week you're thinking about what you're going to do during summer vacation and the next your mom can't even get out of bed. I was young, but not stupid, and I realized that nobody was going to make me lunch for school if I didn't do it myself. My dad was, I don't know, completely lost in his own world of grief or whatever, and my mom was too sick. So I started making my own lunches, like basic peanut butter and jelly sandwiches at first. Nothing fancy, but at least it was something. My mom died like 6 months after that, and it was horrible, obviously, but I'm not going to go into details because that's not really the story I want to tell. What matters is that after she died, I kept making my own lunches, my own breakfasts, basically managing on my own because my dad was in zombie mode. He'd go to work, come home, sit in front of the TV, and that was it. He didn't cook, barely talk to me. And honestly, I was dealing with my own shit too, so it's not like I was seeking out his company much either. I guess we were both surviving in our own way. It went on like that for about 2 years. I was 14 when my dad met Catherine. I don't remember exactly how they met. I think it was on some dating app or something, but suddenly she was there, coming over for dinner on weekends, staying over, and then basically living with us. And she had 3 kids, twin boys about 6 years old, and an 1-year-old girl. At first, my dad told me it was going to be great, that I was going to have siblings, that we were going to be a real family again, and I just thought, really? We're doing this? But what was I going to say? I was 14, and it was his life, I guess. They got married when I was 15, like a small ceremony in somebody's backyard. And suddenly my house was full of people. The twins running around everywhere screaming, the 1-year-old leaving her stuff all over the living room, and Catherine trying to act like she was everyone's new mom, which, no thanks. But at first things were tolerable. I mean, annoying, but tolerable. She cooked for everyone. I kept making my own stuff because I preferred having control over what I ate, and everyone did their own thing. But then, like a year after they got married, things started to change. It was gradual at first. Like Catherine started making comments about how cute it was that I was so independent making my lunches, and how her kids still needed help with those things. I'd just nod and go about my business because, honestly, I didn't care what her kids did. But then one day, I think it was a Sunday night, I was in the kitchen preparing my lunch for Monday, like ham and cheese, nothing special, and Catherine came in and said, "Hey, since you're making yours, could you make the kids too? It would be a huge help." And I just stood there with the knife in my hand thinking, what? I mean, I literally said, what? And she smiled. You know, that fake smile people put on when they're trying to manipulate you into feeling guilty, and repeated, "It would be great if you could help by making the kids' lunches. I have so much to do in the mornings." And I just said no. That I made my own lunch because it was my responsibility, not because I wanted to make lunches for everyone. She got upset. I could see it on her face. But she didn't say anything else that night. But it didn't end there, obviously. A few days later, my dad called me to his room, something he almost never did, and told me that Catherine had mentioned that she'd asked me for help with the lunches and I'd refused, and that maybe I should reconsider, because now we were a family, and families help each other. And I was like, seriously, Dad? You're really telling me this? I reminded him that I'd been making my own lunches since I was 12, when Mom was sick, and that he'd never helped me once in all those years. So don't come now telling me about family responsibilities. He went quiet, like he didn't know what to say, and just mumbled something about thinking about it and left the room. I thought maybe that would be enough for Catherine to let it go. But no, she was just warming up. She started with the most obvious manipulation tactics, like she'd have her kids come and ask me directly if I could make them lunch, with those sad little voices, and I had to tell them no, to ask their mom, which made me feel like the bad guy, but what else could I do? They weren't my kids. It wasn't my responsibility. And Catherine started being super passive-aggressive, making comments like, "Oh, what a shame that some family members don't want to contribute," or, "It must be nice not having to worry about anyone but yourself." Things got worse when she started leaving the kitchen, a total mess. After making breakfast or dinner, like dirty dishes piled everywhere, pans with food stuck on them, the stove all greasy, and then she'd ask me if I could clean up because she had to help the kids with homework. And I'd tell her no, that I cleaned up what I messed up when I cooked for myself, but I wasn't going to clean up the mess of 5 people. She'd run to my dad to complain, and he'd come tell me I was being difficult, that it was just some dishes, and I'd have to explain to him again that, no, it wasn't just some dishes. It was the principle of the thing. The homework thing was another battle. Catherine started asking me to help her 1-year-old daughter with math homework because, according to her, I was good at math and she didn't have time. And when I say asking me, I mean she would literally sit the girl next to me while I was trying to do my own homework and tell me, help her with this. I'd explain to the girl that if she needed help, she should ask her mom or my dad. And Catherine would explode, saying I was selfish and that acting like part of a family wasn't going to kill me. The truth is, I was fed up, completely fed up, and like 4 months into this constant back and forth, we had a serious confrontation. I came home from work. It was like 7 at night, and Catherine was in the kitchen with the kids eating pizza she'd ordered. I went to make myself something to eat. Pasta, basically. And while I was cooking, Catherine told me that after I ate, I needed to bathe the twins because she was too tired. And right there, I just exploded. I didn't yell or anything. Dramatic. But I told her very clearly, Catherine, I'm not going to bathe your kids. I'm not going to make them lunches. I'm not going to clean up your messes. Because they're not my responsibility. They're your kids. You decided to have them, not me. She went quiet for a second. The kids went quiet too, like the whole kitchen in silence. And then she said in that shaky voice people use when they're trying not to cry but are also furious, "You know what? You're right. They're not your responsibility. You're just a selfish teenager who doesn't understand what it means to be part of a family." And I responded, "Maybe I don't want to be part of this family, if that means being your free babysitter." I left my pasta on the stove and went to my room. Didn't even eat that night because I was so angry. I wasn't hungry. My dad came to talk to me like an hour later and basically told me I needed to apologize to Catherine, that she was trying to create a family environment and I was making everything harder. I explained to him, again, that I already contributed to the house. I worked part-time, bought my own stuff when I needed it, took care of myself completely, and that it wasn't fair that now they were asking me to also take care of 3 kids who weren't even really my siblings. He got upset and said that was cruel, that of course they were my siblings now, and I just laughed because, really? How was I supposed to consider them my siblings when they were basically strangers who invaded my house? After that fight, Catherine changed tactics. She stopped asking me directly to do things, and instead started creating situations where I was supposed to help automatically. Like when she started not making enough dinner for everyone, just for her, my dad, and the kids, and I had to cook my own, which honestly I didn't care about because I was already doing that anyway. But then she started making comments about how sad it was that I didn't want to eat with the family, as if it was my fault she didn't include me in her plans. Things came to a head like 2 months after that fight, when Catherine and my dad sat me down in the living room one night after the kids went to bed. It was like an intervention. Both of them sitting on the couch looking at me seriously while I was in the armchair wondering what the hell was going on. My dad started by saying we needed to have a serious conversation about my attitude and my place in the family. And Catherine added that they felt I wasn't contributing fairly, and that was causing tension. I asked what they meant exactly by contributing fairly, and Catherine pulled out, "I'm not kidding, a list, an actual list of things that according to her I should be doing. It included making lunches for the kids 3 times a week, helping with dinner twice a week, bathing the twins on Tuesdays and Thursdays, helping with homework when needed, and cleaning the kitchen after family dinners. I looked at her like she was crazy and asked if she was joking, and she said no, that it was completely reasonable to expect a 6-year-old family member to contribute this way. I told her I wasn't going to do any of those things, that if they wanted someone to help with their kids, maybe they should consider hiring a babysitter or, take care of the kids they decided to bring into this situation themselves. My dad got really upset and said I was being disrespectful and that while I lived under his roof, I had to follow the house rules. I responded, "Perfect. Then I guess I'll live under your roof but completely independently. I'll do my own things, buy my own food, and you guys can pretend I don't exist, except when you pay the bills." Catherine turned red, like literally red with rage, and said that if that was my attitude, then I shouldn't expect to eat the family food, use the family cleaning products, or anything else they provided. And I said, "Perfect, no problem. I already buy most of my stuff anyway." My dad tried to intervene, saying this was getting out of control, but Catherine interrupted him and said, "No, let him. If he wants to be part of this family, he's going to have to earn it." The next day, I started buying all my own stuff. I mean, literally everything. I'd go to the supermarket after work and buy my food for the week, my own cleaning products for my bathroom, everything. I kept my food in my room in a mini fridge. I bought secondhand, like I was living in a college dorm, but inside my own house. It was absurd, but it also made me feel in control, like at least nobody could tell me what to do if I was maintaining myself completely alone. Catherine hated this. I could see it on her face every time I walked through the kitchen with my grocery bags and went straight up to my room. She'd make sarcastic comments about how cute it was that I was so independent, or how it must be nice not having to worry about anyone else. I just ignored her, because honestly, what else could I do? I'd already made it clear I wasn't going to be the free help she wanted, and if that meant living this weird way inside my own house, then so be it. But she kept looking for ways to cause problems. Like one night, it was a Thursday, I think, I came home late from work and was hungry, so I went down to the kitchen to make myself something to eat. I made grilled chicken with rice, nothing special, and I was eating in the kitchen when Catherine came down with the twins saying they were hungry because she'd been too busy to make dinner. She looked at me directly and said, "I see you made enough for everyone," and I responded that no, I'd made enough for me because that was my food that I bought with my money. The kids started crying, saying they were hungry, and Catherine looked at me with disgust and said I was a horrible person, that how could I eat in front of 2 hungry children without sharing? And I told her that maybe she should have thought about feeding them before it was 9 at night, that it wasn't my problem if she couldn't organize meals for her own kids. She called me a bunch of things, like that I was selfish, cruel, that I had no heart, and that my mom would be ashamed of me if she could see me now. And that last part hurt, I'm not going to lie. But I also wasn't going to let her manipulate me using my dead mom. I finished my food, washed my plate, and went to my room while Catherine made cereal for the kids and muttered things about me that she clearly wanted me to hear. My dad was working late that night, so he wasn't even there to witness all the drama, but you can bet Catherine made sure to tell him her version when he got home. The next morning, my dad stopped me before I left for school and told me Catherine was very upset, that I'd crossed a line by refusing to share food with the kids. I explained to him what had really happened, that it wasn't my responsibility to feed his stepchildren, that she'd been trying to manipulate me by making them cry, and that if he cared so much, maybe he should get home in time to make them dinner himself. He got upset and said I didn't understand how hard it was for Catherine to adjust to this new family dynamic, and I responded that maybe Catherine didn't understand how hard it was for me to have my life invaded by 4 strangers and then be treated like the personal servant. Catherine left me a note that day in the kitchen, stuck on the fridge where she knew I'd see it. It said that if I wasn't going to contribute to the family in a meaningful way, then I should consider the consequences of my actions, and that from now on, if I wanted to live completely independently, then I'd be completely alone, with no access to anything family-related. I crumpled up the note and threw it in the trash because, frankly, I was already living that way anyway. It wasn't a real threat. But she started doing petty things, like changing the Wi-Fi password and not giving me the new one, disconnecting my video game console from the living room TV and hiding it somewhere, putting a lock on the closet where they kept cleaning products, Childish things that just showed how petty she was. I bought myself mobile data for internet, eventually found my console in her bedroom closet, and bought my own cleaning products. Every move she made to make me miserable, I countered, and I could see that frustrated her even more. The real breaking point came on a Friday night. I was like 16 and a half at that point, almost 3 months after I'd started living completely independently inside the house. I came home from work and there was a family meeting in the living room. Everyone sitting in a circle like this was some kind of group therapy. Catherine motioned for me to sit, and my dad said we needed to resolve this once and for all because the situation was unsustainable. Catherine started her speech about how a family works, with everyone contributing, about how the kids needed to see examples of cooperation, about how my attitude was negatively affecting the home environment. She talked for like 10 minutes without stopping, and I was just sitting there waiting for her to finish. When she finally shut up, my dad asked me what I had to say, and I simply responded, "I don't want to be part of this family." Total silence. The kids were looking at me confused. Catherine looked shocked, and my dad looked somewhere between angry and hurt. I continued explaining that I didn't ask for this new family, that I didn't ask to have 3 instant siblings, that I didn't ask for a stepmother who expected me to be her free help, and that if being part of this family meant sacrificing my time, my money, and my energy on people I didn't care about, then I didn't want to be part of it. I said I was happy living the way I was, taking care of myself, and that in 2 years when I turned 18 I was moving out anyway. Catherine said that was fine, that if I didn't want to be part of the family then I'd be completely alone, not to expect anything from them. No support, no help, nothing. And I said, perfect. I was already living that way anyway. My dad tried to say something about how this wasn't what he wanted, but Catherine interrupted him saying I'd already made my decision, that I'd chosen to exclude myself. And that's how I've been living the last few months, basically like a tenant in my own house. I say hi when I see them. I'm polite when necessary. But other than that, it's like we live in parallel universes. I do my routine, they do theirs, and we only cross paths in the hallway. Catherine gives me death glares every time she sees me. The kids don't even talk to me anymore, and my dad just avoids the subject completely. Do I regret how I handled things? I don't know, honestly. Part of me wonders if I should have given in a little, made some lunches, helped with some things, just to keep the peace. But another part of me, the bigger part, knows that if I'd given in even a little bit, Catherine would have taken everything. I would have been the free babysitter she wanted. I would have lost my independence, and I would have ended up raising those kids while she sat on the couch. I only have like a year and a half left until I turn 18, and I'm already saving everything I can from work so I can move out as soon as possible. Some of my friends think I'm too harsh, that I should try to fix things with my dad at least, but I don't know if I want to. He chose Catherine over me. He chose his new family over his son, and that hurts more than I want to admit. Last week, my dad asked me if I wanted to go with them to a family barbecue on the weekend, and I told him, no thanks, that I had plans. I didn't really have plans, I just didn't want to pretend we were a happy family in front of his relatives. He looked sad and said he missed when things were simpler. And I thought, really? When were they simpler? When Mom was dying and you were in denial? When I was 12 making my own lunches because nobody else would? Things. They were never simple, Dad. You're just realizing it now. I don't know what's going to happen when I turn 18. If I move out, I probably won't come back much. Maybe for Christmas or something, if they even invite me. Catherine will probably be happy I'm gone. She'll finally have the perfect family she always wanted without the problem teenager ruining her vision. And my dad, well, I guess he already made his decision about which family is more important to him. For now, I'm sticking to my routine. Work, school, my room, repeat. It's lonely sometimes, I'm not going to lie, but at least it's on my own terms. At least nobody's telling me I have to bathe kids who aren't mine, or make lunches for people I don't care about. And maybe that makes me selfish, like Catherine says, but it also makes me free, I guess. And right now, that's enough.